Good evening. I'd like to start off by saying thank you for both your times and efforts into coming to tonight's community meeting. Also, thank you for allowing me to study the issue we're having with our waterways. You asked me to find out what is in our lakes that is killing our fish, as it's become an increasing problem, and it's about time we do something about it. Through my research, I found that one of the issues in our local lakes is something called blue-green algae. What is blue-green algae? Blue-green algae is a unicellular plant that grows in lakes and kills its inhabitants. So as unicellular, it goes through a process called fermentation, where it takes things like the hydrogen and the oxygen out of the water and uses it to create carbon dioxide. It's how it photosynthesizes for itself, allowing it to grow and expand, especially because with the amount of sunlight we get, it just helps it flourish, and it gains all of its nutrients from the water that it's growing in. When does it occur? Blue-green algae grows in the water the same as duckweed. It prospers in sun with the amount of nutrients and H2O it needs to sustain. So it's just another form of a weed. It's something that will naturally occur and grow on its own. Its initial blooms aren't necessarily harmful, but once they die, they start to create toxins, as well as their process of growth damages the environment and takes important nutrients out that hurts the fish in the environment. Why is it toxic? The algae is toxic in two ways. The first way being why it's so toxic to the fish and the plants in the environment. So blue-green algae will take the hydrogen and the oxygen that is present in the water and consume both of those products to create carbon. But as we know, fish need oxygen in the water to breathe. They process the water through their gills, pulling the oxygen out of it to help them breathe and perform their daily life tasks. So with the algae taking the oxygen out of the water, it leaves less oxygen for the fish, and therefore they roughly drown. And the more the algae grows, the worse of the situation it becomes. It doesn't affect the plant life as much because the plants can consume the carbon that it puts off and thrive off of that, but without the oxygen in the water, the fish can't breathe, and therefore it causes issues for them. The other part of that is after its death, it becomes toxic to touch and consume. It's highly unrecommended to consume blue-green algae, whether in bloom or dead, as it causes nausea and vomiting. It also causes severe skin irritation and rash if you come in contact with it, which definitely can harsh the paddling season for those of us that go out and paddle on the lakes. Where does this problem start? The problem starts with us. The problem starts with the fertilizers we use. A lot of our fertilizers contain phosphates and nitrogen, which then get caught up in the rain, the excess water, and all of that runs off and ends up in our lakes and our rivers. Those are things that aren't supposed to be there. Those cause the blue algae to become able to create those toxins. The blue-green algae absorbs the phosphates from the runoff, and it thrives off of that. It grows. It's another reason it grows so well is because we have so much runoff into our lakes. So it damages the environment, and the phosphates only help aid it in its growth and its toxicity that it naturally produces. Who does this affect? First and foremost, it definitely affects our fish, which is why we're all here. The damage to the fish population has been on the rise. as we're seeing more and more dead fish appearing on our shores. And then, of course, it also affects humans and any other creature that comes in contact with it. Blue-green algae tends to just blanket the surface of our lakes, and like I previously mentioned, consuming it causes nausea, vomiting, and that's not specific to humans. That can also be seen in animals such as deer that drink from those waters and happen to consume those as well. So it affects really the entire environment that it's blooming in, not just the fish and the humans. So it's definitely something that is harmful. How do we solve the problem? A major first step would be to remove phosphates from fertilizers. I know some companies have gone forth and started removing some of their phosphates. To just remove those from the fertilizers, to maybe use safer fertilizers, especially those that are getting closer and closer to land that is in or on the lake, just to help remove that additive that helps it bloom so readily. Another one would be to clean your gear after uses. So you go paddleboarding, make sure you wash your paddleboard. Boating, sounds like a great time. Make sure you clean off your boat so you don't carry the blooms from one lake to the next. If you visit all of the lakes, it's highly recommended. There's a lot of beautiful ones here in the Finger Lakes, but definitely make sure you clean your gear between the two so you're not passing it on to the next lake and therefore endangering a different set of environments. Another one would be properly maintaining septic systems. Runoff from septic systems also provide, funnily enough, nutrients for this algae to bloom. So by properly maintaining those systems, we can cut down on the strength of the blooms and therefore reduce the effects that we're seeing from it. And then another option that I have briefly been able to research into is copper sulfates. It seems to be an option in like personal ponds. It's something you can break down and sprinkle in the water. Not necessarily something that's going to help solve the big scale issues we're seeing out in the whole lake, but it is an option that people have been finding to help kill the algae before it becomes toxic and remove it from water sources. So here I just have a couple citations of where I got my information from. The most important part is blue-green algae is out there. We need to be careful with, touching it, consuming it, allowing it to grow and prosper. Let's do our part, plant safe, plant with products that aren't going to damage your environment. Be aware of the environment you're in. And that's really the best we can do for it. Thank you.